Hi there, and welcome to IV Tutor. Welcome to COS1512 exam preparation. So the first topic that we're going to look at is CStrings, which basically is an overview of how to handle CStrings. And basically, you've got two types of strings. If you've been writing code and playing around, you know that you can either use the string keyword to declare a string. Another way to handle strings is to use, what I refer to as CStrings, because basically that's how the C language handles strings. So a CString is just basically an array of characters. So if you know arrays, you have normal arrays. So a char array is what a CString is. And what makes it special is that at the end of your string, we put what is referred to as the now character. And, even though it's made up of a backslash and a zero, the backslash is referred to as an escape character because it's used for special characters. For instance, a backslash zero here is representing the now character. Your backslash T represents a tab. Your backslash N represents the new line feed or the carriage return feed. So whenever you see the backslash followed by another character, it means those two characters have a special meaning. So it's called an escape character. Okay, so in this case, we say that a backslash and a zero is referring to the now character. So what makes a CString special is simply that it's a char array, but at the end of your last character, you put the now character. That is what makes it a CString. Otherwise, it's not really like another new type of variable that we are introducing. No, it's basically a character array terminated by the now character. So if we look at a string, for example, if we have a string here called hi mom, and if we store this in a CString, which means in a character array, we've got hi here and a space, each character occupying an index of your array, but you realize that at the end of our last character, this index is then occupied by our now character. And these ones are just unoccupied. And this is what makes it a CString. If we remove this, then it's no longer a CString. If we introduce this, then it's a CString. Okay, so a CString acts as a string, like you would do a normal string, except that it behaves differently. And you have to understand how to use a CString. You have to understand what you can or what you cannot do with a CString. So let's start by understanding how you declare a CString. Okay, so the first thing to take note of is that it's an array of type char. Okay, so you declare it as any other array of type char. But you must take note of the fact that if you want to store a string with a size of 10 characters, you have to give your array the size of 11, because you need to accommodate that extra now character. So if your string that you want to store is 10 characters, don't declare an array that is 10 characters or that is a size of 10, because then where do you put the now character? It would not be a valid CString. It would just be an array of type char, an array of characters. So the syntax is basically to define an array of type char, give it a name, whatever name you want, and just to make sure that the size of your array is the size of your string plus an extra character to accommodate the now character. So if we look at this declaration here, it means that we can accommodate a string that is a maximum of 10 characters, because the 11th index would then be occupied by the now character. Okay, and your string doesn't have to be 10 characters. It can be 2 characters, 3 characters, 4 characters, like we saw here. It doesn't matter, as long as we can occupy the whole string, we can accommodate the whole string, including the now character, then that's fine. Okay, that is the most important thing to take note when declaring a CString. You are also allowed to declare and initialize a CString at the same time, like you see in this statement here. We define a char array and we say equals and we give it a string. So what this does is it's going to put these 2, 3, 5, 6, 8 characters into this array, which means the last 2 characters would then be unoccupied, which means these 8 characters plus the now character would then make up 9 characters, right? Because 2, 4, 6, 8 plus 1, 9. and then the last two characters just remain unoccupied. The last two indices just remain unoccupied. But this is it's a valid way of initializing, of declaring and initializing a C-string. So for your C-string to be valid, and you do it like this, it means that the size of your array must be enough to accommodate your whole string plus the null character, okay? But another way you can also initialize a C-string is to just leave your brackets empty. And if you do this, your compiler will create this array and give it a size that is enough to cater for these characters plus the required null characters, which means in this case, your compiler is going to make this a size of 12 because we've got 11 characters here plus the null character or the null string, and then your array then here is a size of 12. So if you are not very sure or you don't account, you can just declare your C-string like this, and then it will just be enough to accommodate this string. So those are the options in terms of declaring and initializing a C-string, or just declaring a C-string without really initializing it. So if you declare a C-string without initializing it, it basically just looks like a normal char array. If you declare and initialize, you've got two options. You can either include the size, or you can just leave the square brackets empty, in which case your compiler is going to allocate the right size to your array to make it a valid C-string. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with C-strings, you have to understand that C-strings are different from normal strings. Okay, because with normal strings, you can do things like you can use the assignment operator to copy from one string to another. You can use the equality operator to actually check if two strings are equal, but you cannot do that with C strings, which means if you define a C string like this as a normal array, you cannot then go ahead and use the assignment operator to then copy this string into this C string. This is not valid. Okay, so this line would work, but this line was not going to work. The right way to then copy your characters into your C string is to then use functions. And one of the functions that we use is the string copy function strcpy, which says copy this into this C string. And your C string must be big enough to accommodate this string, okay? So there are a lot of other functions that we are going to look at that we need to know when it comes to C strings. This is just an example, but I need you to understand that operations on a C string are different to operations on a string. Like you cannot use the plus operator to concatenate two strings like you would do with normal string variables, okay? So there are a list of functions that you have to understand, that you have to know how to use, mostly how to compare two strings, how to assign a string, like in this case, how the string copy function, things like concatenating strings and so forth, okay? And if you really want to use these functions, it means you have to include the C string library. But if you don't want to use these functions, then it's fine. But in most cases, if you are using C strings, chances are high that at some point you might want to use the C string functions, which means you will then have to hash include C string, okay? And I think one of the last things we want to talk about C strings is just how to use getLine with a C string, which works exactly the same way you would use getLine with a normal string. So there's really nothing special here in terms of using getLine with C strings. It works exactly the same way you would use getLine with a normal string, but you just have to be mindful that when using getLine with a C string, you have to make sure that you give it the right size, right? So if you go getLine and your argument here is a C string, is your char array, you have to make sure that your function has the right size enough to accommodate the input which is going to come from the user. So what this is going to do is it's going to show the console. The user is going to type whatever they type, and your compiler is going to take whatever they have typed and put that into this variable, which is usually how the getLine function works. But it allows you to place an indication of the maximum size or the number of maximum characters to be extracted. And speaking of functions, these are some of the basic functions that I mentioned earlier. The string copy function is used to copy from one string to another. The string rn copy function is a safer version of the string copy function, which allows you to specify the limit, like up to how many characters do we need to copy. So it takes a third argument, which is the limit, so that if your source string is longer than your target CString or the capacity of your target CString, your compiler is only going to copy up to that limit, which means you have no risk of overriding or overwriting the null character because the string you are copying from is longer than your longer than the size of your CString. The string cat strcat function is used to concatenate two strings, join them into one string. So instead of using the plus operator, you just use this one, and it takes two arguments, which are the two strings that you are trying to concatenate. And you can see here it concatenates the C string value as source string onto the end of the C string value of target string. It does not check to see that the target string is large enough to hold the result of the concatenation. So remember that in this case, your target string is going to take this string, which is your second argument, and append it at the end of your target string. But your target C string must be long enough to accommodate the new value, okay? And this one is a safer version of your string cut. Your string length function is used to check for the length of the string. You can just read through this. You can press pause and read through these descriptions. The other function is the string CMP, which is the string compare function, which is used to compare two C strings. And you can also read through this to just basically understand how it works. But the most important thing to remember is that if the strings are equal, it returns a 0, okay? And if they are not equal, it's going to return a number that is above 0 or below 0. But if the strings are equal, this function returns a 0. And this is also just a safer version of that strcmp function, only that it takes a limit. So that is a brief overview of C strings. Really, there isn't much to them. Otherwise, let's look at a few questions, past exam type questions on C strings, and understand how we can then apply this knowledge to answer questions. I'll see you in the next video.